Why your brain is designed to keep you average. How evolution, fear, comfort, and social conditioning prevent you from reaching your full potential. Chapter 1. The hidden mission of your brain. Most people spend their entire lives fighting an invisible enemy. The strange part is that they do not even realize the enemy exists. They believe their biggest obstacles are lack of money, lack of opportunities, bad luck, difficult circumstances, the economy, their upbringing, other people. Yet beneath all of these challenges lies something far more powerful, something that influences every decision they make, every risk they avoid, every opportunity they ignore, every dream they postpone. That force is the human brain. The same organ capable of creating masterpieces, building civilizations, landing rockets on distant planets, and inventing technologies that transform the world is also responsible for keeping millions of people trapped in ordinary lives. Not because it wants to hurt them. Because it is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The first truth you must understand is this: your brain was not designed to make you extraordinary. It was designed to keep you alive. And there is a massive difference between those two goals. Success requires risk. Growth requires uncertainty. Achievement requires discomfort. But survival prefers safety, predictability, familiarity, comfort. Your brain evolved for survival, not greatness. And until you understand this conflict, you will continue fighting battles you cannot see. The ancient operating system. Imagine giving a prehistoric human being a modern smartphone. The device would be incredibly advanced. Yet the person would have no idea how to use it. The software and the user would belong to completely different worlds. Something similar is happening inside your head right now. You are living in the 21st century. But much of your brain was built for a world that disappeared thousands of years ago. For most of human history, survival was difficult. Food was scarce. Danger was everywhere. Predators existed. Violence was common. Medical care did not exist. A single mistake could be fatal. In that environment, caution was useful. Risk-taking could be deadly. Playing it safe increased survival. As a result, evolution rewarded brains that focused on threats. Brains that noticed danger quickly. Brains that expected problems. Brains that avoided unnecessary risks. Those brains survived. Those brains reproduced. Those brains became us. The problem is that the modern world is completely different. Today, most people are not fighting predators. They are fighting possibilities. Starting businesses. Building careers. Creating content. Writing books. Launching projects. Learning skills. Taking opportunities. The dangers are different. Yet the ancient brain responds as if the threat is still physical. The same system that once protected your ancestors from lions now tries to protect you from public speaking. From rejection. From failure. From criticism. From uncertainty. Your brain cannot always tell the difference between physical danger and psychological discomfort. And that misunderstanding shapes your entire life. Why average feels safe. Imagine you were living in a prehistoric tribe, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Would you want to stand out? Probably not. Being different could attract unwanted attention. Being rejected by the group could threaten survival. Belonging mattered. Conformity mattered. Acceptance mattered. The safest place was usually the middle. Not too weak. Not too ambitious. Not too different. Average meant safety. And even though civilization has changed dramatically, remnants of that programming still exist. People fear standing out. Fear being judged. Fear being criticized. Fear being different. Fear being misunderstood. Fear success. Fear failure. Fear visibility. The subconscious mind often associates standing out with danger. Remaining average feels safer. Even when average creates dissatisfaction. Even when average limits potential. Even when average prevents growth. The brain frequently chooses safety over greatness. Not because greatness is impossible, Because safety feels familiar. Chapter 2. Your brain hates uncertainty. Imagine two doors standing in front of you. Behind the first door is a life you already know. It is predictable, comfortable, familiar. You know the routines. You know the people. You know the outcomes. Nothing extraordinary waits there, but nothing surprising waits there either. Behind the second door is something completely different. More opportunity. More growth. More success. More freedom. But there is a catch. You do not know exactly what will happen. The future behind that door is uncertain. Which door do you think your brain prefers? Most people assume the brain would naturally choose the better future. It doesn't. The brain almost always prefers the future it can predict, even if that future is smaller. Even if it is less rewarding. Even if it is less fulfilling. Because uncertainty is one of the things the human brain dislikes most. And this single fact explains countless acts of self-sabotage. The prediction machine. Your brain is not simply a thinking machine. It is a prediction machine. Every second of every day, it attempts to answer one question: what happens next? The brain constantly scans the environment, looking for patterns, creating expectations, making predictions. This process helps you navigate the world efficiently. You know how to walk because your brain predicts movement. You know how to drive because your brain predicts outcomes. You know how conversations work because your brain predicts social behavior. Prediction creates a feeling of control. And control creates a feeling of safety. When the brain can predict, it relaxes. When it cannot predict, it becomes alert. And alertness often feels like anxiety. Why uncertainty feels dangerous? From an evolutionary perspective, uncertainty often meant danger. Imagine hearing a strange sound outside a cave thousands of years ago. Would uncertainty feel comfortable? Of course not. The unknown could be a predator, a threat, a disaster. The safest strategy was caution. Those who treated uncertainty seriously survived. Those who ignored it often didn't. This survival mechanism remains active today. The difference is that modern uncertainty usually involves opportunities rather than predators. Starting a company, changing careers, moving to a new city, writing a book, launching a YouTube channel, falling in love, pursuing a dream. None of these things are life-threatening. Yet the brain often responds as if they are. Because uncertainty activates ancient survival systems. The strange preference for predictable misery. One of the most surprising truths about human behavior is that people often choose familiar discomfort over unfamiliar possibility. Think about how many people stay in situations they dislike, jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, habits that hurt them, environments that limit them. Why? Because familiarity creates predictability, and predictability creates psychological comfort. The future may not be enjoyable, but it is known. The alternative might be better, but it is uncertain. The brain frequently chooses what is known over what is possible. This is one of the primary reasons people remain average. Not because they lack potential. Because uncertainty feels threatening. How dreams trigger fear. Most people think dreams should create excitement. And they do. But they also create uncertainty. A dream introduces questions. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I waste my time? What if I'm not capable? Notice how quickly possibility transforms into fear. This is the brain attempting to reduce uncertainty. It wants answers, guarantees, certainty. Unfortunately, meaningful dreams rarely come with guarantees. Growth always involves unknowns. The future cannot be fully predicted. And that makes the brain uncomfortable. Why overthinking exists? Many people believe overthinking is a personality trait. In reality, overthinking is often an attempt to eliminate uncertainty. The person believes, if I think long enough, I'll find the perfect answer. If I analyze every possibility, I'll avoid mistakes. If I prepare enough, uncertainty will disappear. The problem is that life rarely provides complete certainty. No amount of thinking can guarantee success. No amount of planning can eliminate all risk. No amount of analysis can predict every outcome. Yet the brain keeps searching. Because uncertainty feels unresolved, and unresolved situations demand attention. This is why overthinking becomes exhausting. The brain keeps trying to solve a problem that cannot be completely solved. The cost of waiting. When people fear uncertainty, they often delay action. They wait. Wait for confidence. Wait for motivation. Wait for clarity. Wait for certainty. Wait for the perfect moment. The problem is that certainty rarely arrives before action. In most cases, clarity comes after movement, not before it. Confidence comes after experience, not before it. Knowledge comes after engagement, not before it. The people who accomplish extraordinary things understand this. They do not wait for certainty. They move despite uncertainty, because they recognize something important. Waiting often creates more risk than acting. The illusion of safety. The comfort zone feels safe. But safety is often an illusion. Imagine someone who avoids pursuing their dream for 10 years. At first, avoidance feels safe. No risk. No embarrassment. No failure. But what happens over time? Regret grows. Potential remains unrealized. Opportunities disappear. Skills remain undeveloped. The cost accumulates. The danger was never action. The danger was inaction. Yet the brain struggles to recognize this because the consequences arrive slowly. Immediate comfort hides long-term costs. And long-term costs are easy to ignore. Why successful people tolerate uncertainty? One characteristic separates highly successful people from average people more than almost any other: their relationship with uncertainty. Successful people are not fearless. They are not immune to anxiety. They are not naturally confident all the time. What makes them different is that they act anyway. They understand that uncertainty is the price of growth, the price of opportunity, the price of achievement. Instead of demanding certainty, they develop trust. Trust in their ability to adapt. Trust in their ability to learn. Trust in their ability to recover. That trust allows them to move forward while others remain frozen. The uncertainty paradox. Here is one of the great paradoxes of life. The more you avoid uncertainty, the more limited your life becomes. The more you embrace uncertainty, the more possibilities become available. Think about every meaningful achievement. Every invention. Every business. Every relationship. Every adventure. Every transformation. Each began with uncertainty. No guarantees existed. No perfect roadmap existed. Someone moved forward anyway. The extraordinary future was created because someone accepted uncertainty rather than waiting for it to disappear. Training your brain. The good news is that your brain can learn. Just as it learned to fear uncertainty, it can learn to tolerate it. Every time you take a small risk, you send a message: I can handle the unknown. Every time you try something new, you send another message: uncertainty is survivable. Every courageous action expands your comfort zone. The unfamiliar becomes familiar. The uncertain becomes manageable. The brain updates its understanding. What once felt threatening becomes normal. This is how growth happens. Not all at once. One experience at a time. The choice that defines your future. Every day, you face a decision. Choose certainty. Or choose growth. Choose predictability. Or choose possibility. Choose comfort. Or choose expansion. The choice often appears small. A conversation. A project. A decision. An opportunity. Yet these small choices accumulate. Over months and years, they create dramatically different lives. One path leads to familiarity. The other leads to transformation. And the difference between those paths is often a single thing: your willingness to tolerate uncertainty. The next trap. Now that you understand why uncertainty keeps people average, another question emerges. If uncertainty creates fear, where do people go when fear appears? The answer is almost always the same. They retreat into comfort. Comfort becomes the refuge, the hiding place, the safe zone. Unfortunately, comfort is also one of the most dangerous traps in existence. Because comfort does not merely protect you. It slowly weakens you. And that is exactly what we explore next. Chapter 3. The Comfort Zone Trap. If uncertainty is the gatekeeper of growth, then comfort is the prison that keeps most people from ever reaching it. The comfort zone sounds harmless. In fact, it sounds desirable. Who doesn't want comfort? Who doesn't want peace? Who doesn't want life to feel easy? At first glance, comfort appears to be one of life's rewards. And in moderation, it is. Rest is valuable. Recovery is necessary. Stability has its place. The problem begins when comfort stops being a tool and becomes a destination. Because your brain loves comfort. Not a little. Obsessively, relentlessly, constantly. And if left unchecked, that desire for comfort can quietly steal your future. The ancient search for efficiency. To understand the comfort zone, you must understand something fundamental about the brain. The brain is incredibly expensive. Although it represents only a small percentage of body weight, it consumes a tremendous amount of energy. Because energy was scarce throughout human history, the brain evolved to conserve it whenever possible. This was useful for survival. If two paths led to the same outcome, choosing the easier path made sense. If unnecessary effort could be avoided, that energy could be saved for emergencies. Efficiency became valuable. Over time, the brain developed a powerful preference: do more while spending less energy. That preference still exists today. The problem is that modern life offers endless opportunities for convenience. And convenience often becomes a substitute for growth. Why easy feels good? Think about how often your brain seeks the easiest option. Take the elevator instead of the stairs. Watch another video instead of reading. Order food instead of cooking. Scroll instead of creating. Consume instead of produce. Delay instead of act. The easy choice feels good because it requires less effort. And less effort feels rewarding. The brain interprets energy conservation as success. But there is a hidden problem. Most meaningful achievements require effort. The brain prefers efficiency. Growth often requires inefficiency. The conflict begins. The comfort zone defined. Many people misunderstand the comfort zone. It is not simply a place where you feel relaxed. It is a psychological environment where outcomes feel predictable. You know what to expect. You know how to behave. You know the risks. You know the rewards. Everything feels familiar. This familiarity creates a sense of safety. The brain loves safety. As a result, it encourages you to remain inside the comfort zone. The problem is that the comfort zone contains very little growth. Because growth requires adaptation. Adaptation requires challenge. Challenge requires discomfort. And discomfort exists outside the comfort zone. The slow death of potential. Most people imagine failure as something dramatic. A business collapsing. A dream falling apart. A major setback. But the most common form of failure is much quieter. It happens gradually. Almost invisibly. A person stops challenging themselves. Stops learning. Stops taking risks. Stops pursuing meaningful goals. They become comfortable. Years pass. Life remains predictable. Nothing terrible happens. But nothing extraordinary happens either. Potential slowly fades. Not because of catastrophe. Because of comfort. This is why comfort can be dangerous. It rarely destroys your life quickly. It slowly convinces you that average is enough. Why ambition feels uncomfortable. Ambition is often misunderstood. People assume ambition is purely exciting. In reality, ambition is uncomfortable. Ambition demands growth. Growth demands change. Change creates uncertainty. Uncertainty triggers fear. The brain notices all of this. And it begins offering alternatives. Maybe later. Take it easy. You deserve a break. Now isn't the right time. Sometimes rest is appropriate. But often these messages are invitations back into the comfort zone. And the comfort zone always has room for one more excuse. The comfort addiction. Comfort becomes dangerous when it turns into an addiction. An addiction is anything you repeatedly seek to avoid discomfort. Many people become addicted to comfort without realizing it. They constantly seek easier options. Easier conversations. Easier goals. Easier challenges. Easier decisions. Over time, resilience weakens. The ability to tolerate discomfort decreases. The person becomes psychologically fragile. Small obstacles feel enormous. Minor setbacks feel overwhelming. Because they have trained themselves to avoid discomfort rather than navigate it. The muscle analogy. Imagine someone who never exercises, never challenges their muscles, never carries anything heavy, never pushes their limits. What happens? The body becomes weaker. The same principle applies psychologically. Courage grows through use. Discipline grows through use. Confidence grows through use. Resilience grows through use. Avoiding challenge weakens these qualities. Seeking challenge strengthens them. The comfort zone protects you from difficulty. It also protects you from becoming stronger. The cost of convenience. Modern society has made life remarkably convenient. This is both a blessing and a challenge. Technology solves problems instantly. Information is available immediately. Entertainment is endless. Comfort is abundant. The downside is that convenience reduces opportunities for struggle. And struggle is often the birthplace of growth. Think about it. Many of the qualities people admire most were developed through challenge. Persistence. Patience. Courage. Determination. Self-control. Adaptability. These qualities rarely emerge from comfort. They emerge from difficulty. The dangerous question every day. Your brain asks a question. How can I make this easier? The question is natural. The problem is that easier is not always better. Sometimes the better question is, what would make me stronger? Those two questions lead to very different lives. One prioritizes comfort. The other prioritizes growth. One seeks relief. The other seeks development. One creates short-term ease. The other creates long-term capability. Why growth feels wrong. One reason people abandon growth is because growth often feels wrong at first. The gym feels uncomfortable. Learning feels frustrating. Public speaking feels terrifying. Building a business feels overwhelming. Developing new habits feels exhausting. The brain interprets these feelings as warning signs. It says, stop, retreat, go back. But discomfort is not always danger. Sometimes discomfort is evidence of expansion. Evidence that you are entering new territory. Evidence that adaptation is occurring. The people who succeed learn to recognize the difference. Temporary comfort, permanent regret. Comfort provides immediate rewards. Growth provides delayed rewards. This is why comfort wins so often. The benefits arrive now. The costs arrive later, years later. The person who avoids difficult conversations experiences relief today. But relationship problems grow. The person who avoids learning experiences relief today. But opportunities disappear. The person who avoids challenges experiences relief today. But potential remains undeveloped. Comfort feels inexpensive in the moment. The bill arrives later. And the bill is often regret. The expansion zone. Beyond the comfort zone lies something powerful. Not the danger zone. Not the panic zone. The expansion zone. This is where growth occurs. Where new skills develop. Where confidence increases. Where opportunities emerge. The expansion zone feels uncomfortable but manageable. It stretches you without breaking you. The goal is not living in constant stress. The goal is regularly entering the expansion zone. Returning stronger each time. This process gradually expands what feels normal. What once felt difficult becomes easy. What once felt impossible becomes routine. How extraordinary lives are built. Extraordinary lives are rarely built through extraordinary moments. They are built through ordinary acts of courage, repeated consistently. A difficult conversation, a new skill, a calculated risk, a disciplined decision, a challenging goal. Each action expands the comfort zone. Each action strengthens capability. Each action teaches the brain a new lesson. I can handle more than I thought. That lesson changes everything. The comfort lie. The comfort zone promises safety. But safety is not the same as fulfillment. Safety is not the same as purpose. Safety is not the same as growth. Many people spend years chasing comfort only to discover they feel empty. Not because comfort is bad. Because comfort was never meant to be the goal. Comfort is a place to visit, not a place to live. The next discovery. Now that you understand the trap of comfort, another question emerges. Why do so many people settle for average even when they know they are capable of more? Why does the brain repeatedly encourage conformity? Why does standing out feel so uncomfortable? The answer takes us back thousands of years. Back to the tribal instincts that still influence modern behavior. Because your brain contains ancient programming that was specifically designed to keep you close to the group. And that programming may be one of the biggest reasons people never reach their full potential. Chapter 4. Why your brain loves average. Most people say they want success. They want freedom. They want financial independence. They want influence. They want a meaningful life. They want to achieve something extraordinary. Yet when opportunities to stand out appear, something strange happens. Fear arrives. Hesitation appears. Doubt grows. Action slows down. The person retreats toward familiarity, toward normality, toward average. Why? Because deep inside the human mind exists a powerful force that most people never recognize. A force created long before modern civilization. A force that once helped human beings survive. A force that still shapes behavior today. The desire to belong. Life in the tribe. For most of human history, survival depended on groups. People lived in tribes. Small communities. Tightly connected groups where cooperation was essential. Food was gathered together. Threats were faced together. Children were raised together. Protection came from the group. Being accepted increased survival. Being rejected threatened survival. If someone was expelled from the tribe thousands of years ago, their chances of survival dropped dramatically. Isolation could mean death. As a result, the brain evolved a simple rule: stay connected to the group. This rule became deeply embedded in human psychology. And although the world has changed, the programming remains. The fear of standing out. Imagine being different in a prehistoric tribe. Acting differently. Thinking differently. Behaving differently. The tribe might view you with suspicion. Your ideas might be rejected. Your actions might attract criticism. Your position in the group could be threatened. The safest strategy was often conformity. Blend in. Follow the group. Avoid unnecessary attention. Do not become a target. This strategy increased survival. And because it increased survival, evolution rewarded it. Today, those instincts still exist. But instead of protecting us from tribal rejection, they often prevent us from pursuing greatness. Why criticism feels so painful? Have you ever wondered why criticism can feel surprisingly intense? Why a negative comment can stay in your mind for days? Why rejection can feel physically painful? The answer lies in ancient survival systems. The brain often interprets social rejection as a serious threat, not because a negative comment is dangerous, but because thousands of years ago, rejection from the group could have dangerous consequences. Modern criticism rarely threatens survival. Yet the emotional response remains powerful. Your brain still treats social acceptance as extremely important. This is why many people avoid visibility, avoid leadership, avoid creativity, Avoid ambition. Avoid risk. Not because they lack ability. Because they fear judgment. The safety of average has a unique advantage. It attracts less attention. Less attention means less criticism. Less criticism means less perceived social risk. The brain likes this arrangement. Average feels safe, predictable, manageable. The problem is that extraordinary results rarely come from average behavior. Average effort creates average outcomes. Average thinking creates average possibilities. Average habits create average lives. Yet the brain often prefers average because average reduces uncertainty and social exposure. Why success creates attention? Success is not just rewarding. It is visible. And visibility creates vulnerability. The moment you pursue something meaningful, people begin noticing. Some become supportive. Others become skeptical. Some become inspired. Others become jealous. Some celebrate your growth. Others criticize it. The brain recognizes these possibilities. It sees attention. Attention creates risk. Risk creates discomfort. The result? Self-sabotage. The person unconsciously pulls back. Not because success is undesirable. Because visibility feels threatening. The tall poppy effect. Many cultures have a phenomenon sometimes called the tall poppy effect. The idea is simple. When one flower grows taller than the others, it becomes more noticeable. And noticeable things often attract attention. Sometimes admiration. Sometimes criticism. Human groups often behave similarly. People who achieve unusual success can become targets of judgment. People who pursue ambitious goals may face resistance. People who think differently may be questioned. The brain notices these social dynamics. It concludes, maybe standing out isn't worth it. This conclusion feels protective, but it can also be limiting. Why people shrink themselves? Many individuals unconsciously shrink themselves to maintain acceptance. They hide ambitions, hide talents, hide ideas, hide dreams. They avoid expressing their full potential, not because they lack capability, because belonging feels safer than standing out. The tragedy is that this behavior often becomes automatic. The person doesn't even realize they are doing it. They simply feel hesitation, resistance, fear, and they interpret those feelings as signs to stop. The classroom example. Consider a classroom. A student knows the answer. The teacher asks a question. The student hesitates. Why? Fear of being wrong. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of standing out. The student remains silent. This pattern repeats throughout life. An employee has an idea. A creator has a vision. An entrepreneur sees an opportunity. A leader feels inspired. Yet they hesitate. The same tribal programming appears. What if people judge me? What if I look foolish? What if I fail publicly? The fear is ancient. The situation is modern. The cost of conformity provides benefits. It creates social harmony, cooperation, connection, community. But excessive conformity carries a price. Innovation declines. Creativity declines. Growth declines. Potential declines. History's greatest breakthroughs rarely came from people who simply followed the crowd. Progress often begins with individuals willing to think differently, act differently, question assumptions, challenge norms. Without those people, civilization would stagnate. Why leaders think differently? Leadership often requires going against instinct. The instinct says, stay with the group. Leadership sometimes requires stepping ahead of the group. The instinct says, avoid criticism. Leadership often requires tolerating criticism. The instinct says, remain average. Leadership requires embracing visibility. This is why leadership can feel uncomfortable. It conflicts with ancient programming. Yet those who learn to tolerate that discomfort gain access to extraordinary opportunities. Rewriting tribal programming. The goal is not rejecting human connection. Connection remains essential. Community matters. Relationships matter. Belonging matters. The goal is balance. You can belong without shrinking yourself. You can connect without abandoning ambition. You can seek acceptance without sacrificing growth. The challenge is recognizing when the desire for belonging becomes a barrier to becoming who you are capable of becoming. The courage to be different. One of the most important skills in life is learning to tolerate being misunderstood. Not because misunderstanding is pleasant. Because growth often attracts misunderstanding. When you change, some people become uncomfortable. When you improve, some people question your motives. When you pursue larger goals, some people criticize your ambition. This is normal. Every meaningful path eventually separates from the crowd. Not because the crowd is wrong. Because uncommon results require uncommon behavior. The hidden choice. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you face a choice. Blend in. Or grow. Conform. Or expand. Seek approval. Or seek progress. Neither choice is completely right or wrong. But they lead to different destinations. One leads toward acceptance. The other leads toward possibility. The most fulfilled individuals learn to balance both. They maintain connection while pursuing growth. They value belonging without becoming controlled by it. They respect the group without surrendering their individuality. Beyond average. The moment you understand that your brain naturally prefers conformity, many things begin making sense. The fear of visibility. The fear of judgment. The fear of criticism. The fear of standing out. These reactions are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are echoes of ancient survival mechanisms. But understanding them gives you power. Because awareness allows choice, and choice allows change. The brain may prefer average. That does not mean you must obey it. The next obstacle. Comfort keeps people stuck. Conformity keeps people average. But there is another force operating behind both. A force so influential that it can stop action before it even begins. A force capable of creating anxiety, hesitation, self-doubt, and paralysis. That force is fear. Not real danger. Perceived danger. The stories your brain creates. The threats it imagines. The worst-case scenarios it rehearses. Because the human mind is not merely a survival machine. It is also a fear-generating machine. And understanding that machine may be one of the most important discoveries of your life. Chapter 5. The Fear Factory Inside Your Head. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a diving board. The water below is perfectly safe. Thousands of people have jumped before you. Nothing dangerous is happening. And yet your heart races. Your palms sweat. Your muscles tighten. Your mind begins generating reasons not to jump. What if something goes wrong? What if I get hurt? What if I embarrass myself? The fear feels real. The danger is mostly imagined. This simple example reveals one of the most important truths about the human brain. Your brain is not designed to make accurate predictions. It is designed to keep you alive. And when survival is the priority, the brain often prefers false alarms over missed threats. This creates a fascinating consequence. The human mind becomes a fear factory, constantly scanning for problems, constantly imagining risks, constantly preparing for dangers that may never arrive. Better safe than sorry. Imagine two prehistoric humans. The first hears a rustling sound in the bushes. He assumes it is a predator and runs away. The second hears the same sound and ignores it. If the noise was harmless, the cautious person loses nothing. But if it was dangerous, the careless person could lose everything. Over thousands of generations, evolution favored caution. The brain learned an important lesson. It is better to overreact than underreact. This strategy increased survival. But it also created a mind that often exaggerates danger. Today, the same mechanism influences everyday life. Not just physical threats. Psychological threats, social threats, professional threats, emotional threats. The brain frequently reacts as though they are equally dangerous. The fear projection system. One of the brain's favorite activities is projecting into the future. It constantly asks, what could go wrong? This ability can be useful. Planning matters. Preparation matters. Risk assessment matters. The problem occurs when projection becomes obsession. The brain begins rehearsing disasters, imagining failure, predicting rejection, visualizing embarrassment, creating negative scenarios repeatedly. The result is anxiety. Not because something bad is happening, because something bad might happen. The mind starts reacting to imagined futures as though they are present realities. Why fear feels convincing? Fear has a unique advantage. It feels urgent. When fear speaks, it rarely sounds uncertain. It sounds authoritative, confident, convincing. It says, don't do it. This is a mistake. You'll regret this. Something bad will happen. The voice sounds certain. Yet fear is often guessing, predicting, speculating. The problem is that the emotional intensity of fear makes those predictions feel like facts. Many people obey fear without questioning its accuracy. The fear of failure. Perhaps the most common fear is failure. People fear making mistakes, looking foolish, being judged, wasting time, losing money, experiencing disappointment. The irony is that failure is often the path to success. Every skill requires mistakes. Every achievement requires learning. Every breakthrough involves setbacks. Yet the brain focuses on the pain, not the possibility. It sees failure as evidence of danger. Growth sees failure as evidence of progress. This difference in perspective changes everything. The fear of rejection. Human beings are deeply social creatures. As we explored in the previous chapter, belonging was historically linked to survival. This is why rejection feels so powerful. A negative comment, a criticism, a dismissal, a refusal. These experiences can trigger surprisingly intense emotional reactions. The brain interprets social pain seriously, sometimes too seriously. Many people avoid opportunities because of potential rejection. They avoid asking, avoid sharing, avoid creating, avoid expressing themselves. The possibility of rejection becomes more influential than the possibility of success. And so nothing changes. The fear of success. This fear is less obvious, yet incredibly common. Many people believe they want success. Consciously, they do. Subconsciously, they may fear what success brings. Visibility, responsibility, higher expectations, greater pressure, more scrutiny, more challenges. Success changes life, and change creates uncertainty. The brain notices this. Part of it begins resisting the very thing another part desires. This internal conflict often appears as procrastination, hesitation, or self-sabotage. The person wants success, but fears the consequences of becoming successful. The fear of change. The brain loves familiarity, even when familiarity is unpleasant. Because familiarity is predictable, change disrupts prediction. It introduces unknown variables, new environments, new responsibilities, new expectations. The brain sees uncertainty. Uncertainty triggers caution. Caution creates resistance. This is why even positive changes can feel stressful. A promotion, a new relationship, a business opportunity, a major achievement, all involve change, and all can activate fear. The fear of judgment. Imagine posting something online, launching a project, starting a channel, sharing your ideas. Immediately, the mind begins imagining reactions: criticism, mockery, disapproval, negative comments. Most of these scenarios never occur, yet the brain behaves as though they already have. The fear of judgment stops countless dreams before they even begin. The tragedy is that judgment is often temporary. Regret can last a lifetime. How fear creates self-sabotage. Fear rarely announces itself openly. It disguises itself as procrastination, as perfectionism, as overthinking, as endless preparation, as waiting for the right moment, as seeking more information. The person believes they are being responsible. Often they are simply avoiding fear. The avoidance creates temporary relief. The relief rewards the behavior. The behavior becomes habitual. Self-sabotage develops, and the cycle continues. The brain's negativity bias. One reason fear feels so powerful is that the brain pays more attention to negative possibilities than positive ones. Psychologists often refer to this as negativity bias. Negative information captures attention more easily. Negative experiences are remembered more vividly. Negative outcomes feel more important. This bias helped ancestors survive. But in modern life, it can distort reality. The brain becomes excellent at identifying risks, less skilled at recognizing opportunities. As a result, many people spend more time preparing for failure than preparing for success. The reality gap. Fear often creates a gap between perception and reality. The imagined danger becomes much larger than the actual danger. A conversation feels terrifying. In reality, it is manageable. A presentation feels overwhelming. In reality, it is survivable. A risk feels catastrophic. In reality, it is educational. The larger the gap becomes, the more limiting fear becomes. The person starts living according to imagination rather than reality. Potential remains trapped behind exaggerated predictions. Courage is not fearlessness. One of the biggest misconceptions about successful people is that they are fearless. They are not. They experience fear just like everyone else. The difference is behavioral. Fear influences them. It does not control them. They understand something important. Fear is information, not instruction. Fear can be listened to, examined, considered, but it does not automatically deserve obedience. The moment you realize this, your relationship with fear begins changing. Expanding the comfort zone. Every time you face a fear, something interesting happens. The brain gathers new information. It learns. It updates. The feared situation becomes less threatening. Confidence grows. Not because fear disappeared, because experience replaced uncertainty. This is how courage develops. Not through thinking. Through action. Not through waiting. Through engagement. Every courageous act teaches the brain a new lesson. I can survive this. And survival gradually becomes confidence. The greatest lie fear tells many lies. But perhaps the greatest is this: stay where you are. It is safer. What fear rarely mentions is the cost. The opportunities lost. The skills never developed. The relationships never formed. The dreams never pursued. The person never became. Fear focuses on immediate discomfort. Growth focuses on long-term possibility. The difference between average lives and extraordinary lives often comes down to which voice a person follows more often. The next battle. Fear keeps people stuck. Comfort keeps people passive. Conformity keeps people average. But there is another force quietly reinforcing all three. A force that modern technology has amplified dramatically. A force that delivers pleasure without effort. Rewards without achievement. Entertainment without accomplishment. It is one of the most powerful influences on the modern brain. And it may be one of the biggest reasons people struggle to reach their potential. That force is the addiction to easy rewards. Chapter 6. The addiction to easy rewards. Imagine two versions of success. The first requires months of effort, long hours of learning, consistent practice, patience, discipline, delayed gratification. The second provides pleasure instantly. No waiting, no struggle, no sacrifice. Just immediate satisfaction. Which option do you think your brain prefers? The answer is obvious. The brain naturally gravitates toward immediate rewards. Not because it is lazy. Not because it is broken. Because it evolved in a world where immediate rewards often mattered more than future possibilities. The problem is that modern society has learned how to exploit this tendency. And the result is one of the greatest challenges in human history. Millions of people are becoming addicted to easy rewards. The ancient reward system. The human brain contains powerful reward mechanisms. These mechanisms evolved for good reasons. When our ancestors found food, the brain rewarded them. When they solved problems, the brain rewarded them. When they formed social connections, the brain rewarded them. These rewards encouraged behaviors that improved survival. The system worked remarkably well. The challenge is that the modern world provides rewards at a scale evolution never anticipated. Unlimited entertainment. Endless scrolling. Instant communication. Continuous stimulation. The reward system has become overwhelmed. The power of immediate gratification. Imagine a child offered two choices. One cookie now, or two cookies later. Many children choose the immediate reward. Why? Because immediate rewards feel certain. Future rewards feel abstract. The same pattern exists in adults. People know exercise improves health. But entertainment feels better right now. People know saving money creates freedom. But spending feels better right now. People know learning new skills improves the future. But distraction feels better right now. The brain often prioritizes present pleasure over future benefit. This tendency can quietly shape an entire life. Why social media is so powerful. Modern platforms understand something important about human psychology. Unpredictable rewards create strong engagement. A notification might contain something exciting, or it might not. A post might receive attention, or it might not. The uncertainty itself becomes addictive. The brain keeps checking, searching, refreshing, looking for the next reward. This process consumes attention, and attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Every minute spent chasing easy stimulation is a minute not invested in meaningful growth. The dopamine misunderstanding. Many people talk about dopamine as though it is simply the chemical of pleasure. The reality is more complex. Dopamine is strongly connected to motivation, anticipation, and reward-seeking behavior. It encourages pursuit, exploration, action. The problem arises when reward systems become overloaded. Constant stimulation teaches the brain to expect frequent rewards. As expectations increase, ordinary activities begin feeling less exciting. Reading a book feels slow. Learning a skill feels difficult. Building a business feels frustrating. The brain has become accustomed to easier forms of stimulation. The death of patience. One consequence of easy rewards is reduced patience. People become accustomed to immediate results. Immediate entertainment. Immediate answers. Immediate delivery. Immediate gratification. As a result, long-term projects feel increasingly difficult. Writing a book, building a career, learning an instrument, creating a business, developing expertise. These goals require sustained effort. And sustained effort becomes challenging when the brain expects instant rewards. Why discipline feels harder than ever. Discipline has always been difficult. But modern life has increased the challenge. Previous generations faced fewer distractions. Today's world competes aggressively for attention. Every app, every platform, every notification, every advertisement, someone is trying to capture your focus. The brain becomes fragmented. Attention becomes scattered. Deep work becomes rare. And without deep work, extraordinary results become difficult to achieve. Average becomes the default. Not because people lack intelligence. Because their attention is constantly divided. The productivity illusion. Many people spend hours feeling busy, checking messages, watching videos, reading articles, consuming content, switching between tasks. The day feels productive, yet little meaningful progress occurs. The brain enjoys activity. But activity is not the same as advancement. Easy rewards often create the illusion of accomplishment. The person feels engaged, but remains stationary. Motion replaces progress. Consumption replaces creation. Entertainment replaces achievement. The difference between pleasure and fulfillment. One of the most important distinctions in life is the difference between pleasure and fulfillment. Pleasure feels good immediately. Fulfillment grows gradually. Pleasure is often easy. Fulfillment usually requires effort. Pleasure fades quickly. Fulfillment tends to last longer. Neither is inherently wrong. The problem occurs when pleasure becomes the primary goal. The person begins optimizing life for comfort and stimulation. Meanwhile, deeper forms of satisfaction remain unexplored. Purpose, mastery, contribution, growth, meaning. These experiences require patience, but they create richer lives. Why growth feels boring at first. Many worthwhile activities feel boring initially. Reading, learning, practicing, building, training, creating. The brain compares them to highly stimulating alternatives. The comparison is unfair. One activity provides instant rewards. The other provides delayed rewards. At first, delayed rewards seem less attractive. But with repetition, something interesting happens. The brain adapts. It begins finding satisfaction in progress itself. The process becomes rewarding. The challenge is surviving the early phase. The phase where growth feels slower than distraction. The cost of constant stimulation. A constantly stimulated mind struggles with stillness. Silence feels uncomfortable. Reflection feels difficult. Focus becomes challenging. The brain begins craving novelty. New content. New entertainment. New stimulation. As a result, attention spans shrink. Concentration weakens. Patience declines. The ability to engage deeply with meaningful work decreases. These changes do not happen overnight. They occur gradually, which makes them difficult to notice. Delayed gratification. The superpower. One trait appears repeatedly among high achievers. The ability to delay gratification. The willingness to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term rewards. This skill creates enormous advantages. While others seek immediate pleasure, they invest. While others consume, they create. While others quit, they persist. Over time, the difference compounds. Small daily choices become significant outcomes. The future rewards those willing to wait. Reclaiming control. The goal is not eliminating pleasure. The goal is regaining control. Using technology intentionally. Choosing rewards consciously. Protecting attention deliberately. Building habits that support long-term growth. The question is simple. Are you controlling your reward system? Or is your reward system controlling you? The answer influences every area of life. The new competitive advantage. In a world full of distractions, focus becomes rare. In a world full of instant gratification, patience becomes valuable. In a world addicted to stimulation, discipline becomes powerful. These qualities create extraordinary advantages. Not because they are complicated. Because they are increasingly uncommon. Most people allow their attention to be directed by external forces. Those who learn to direct it themselves gain access to opportunities others overlook. The path beyond average. Average results often emerge from average habits. And average habits frequently emerge from unconscious reward-seeking behavior. The brain follows what feels good now. The future follows what creates value later. The challenge is learning to prioritize long-term growth over short-term comfort. When you master that skill, everything begins changing. Not immediately, but steadily, consistently, powerfully. The next discovery. By now, you understand how fear influences behavior. How comfort creates stagnation. How easy rewards weaken discipline. But there is another force shaping your life. A force that existed long before social media. Long before technology. Long before adulthood. A force that began influencing you as a child. It shaped your beliefs. Your expectations. Your view of success. Your view of yourself. Because much of what you think is your own thinking was actually inherited. Programmed. Conditioned. And until you recognize that conditioning, it will continue directing your life from behind the scenes. Chapter 7. The invisible prison of social conditioning. Imagine a baby entering the world. No beliefs. No opinions. No political views. No understanding of success. No understanding of failure. No idea what is possible. No idea what is impossible. The child arrives with enormous potential. Yet within a few years, that potential begins receiving instructions, rules, expectations, definitions, labels, beliefs. Most of these lessons are not taught deliberately. They are absorbed, observed, repeated, accepted, and eventually they become part of the child's reality. This process is called conditioning, and it influences nearly every aspect of life, including how average or extraordinary your future becomes. The first teachers. Before society teaches you anything, your family does. Parents, grandparents, relatives, caregivers. These people become the first source of information about reality. How money works. How relationships work. How success works. How people should behave. How the world operates. Children absorb these lessons automatically. Not because they are evaluating them critically. Because they trust the source. The young mind rarely asks, is this belief true? Instead, it asks, how do I fit into this environment? And so the beliefs are accepted, often without question. The power of observation. One of the most important facts about human development is that people learn more from observation than instruction. Parents can tell a child to be confident. But if the child observes insecurity, they learn insecurity. Parents can encourage ambition. But if the child observes fear, they learn fear. Parents can talk about opportunity. But if they constantly focus on limitation, limitation becomes the lesson. Children watch carefully. They study behavior. And behavior often becomes their blueprint for reality. The invisible rules. Every family contains unspoken rules. Rules that are rarely written down, yet strongly enforced. Rules such as, don't attract too much attention. Play it safe. Stay realistic. Don't dream too big. People like us don't do things like that. Be grateful for what you have. These statements may appear harmless. Sometimes they are. But repeated over years, they can quietly limit ambition. The child learns where the boundaries are, and eventually stops questioning them. The school system and average schools perform many valuable functions. They provide education, structure, knowledge, social development. Yet most educational systems were not originally designed to create extraordinary thinkers. They were designed to create reliable citizens, predictable workers, functional members of society. The emphasis often becomes compliance. Follow instructions. Meet requirements. Pass examinations. Avoid mistakes. Fit the system. These skills have value. But they can unintentionally discourage risk-taking, creativity, independent thinking, entrepreneurship, innovation. Qualities often associated with extraordinary achievement. Why mistakes become dangerous? Consider what happens in school. Correct answers are rewarded. Incorrect answers are penalized. Over time, many students develop a subtle belief: mistakes are bad. The problem is that innovation requires mistakes. Growth requires mistakes. Learning requires mistakes. Entrepreneurship requires mistakes. Leadership requires mistakes. The fear of making mistakes can become so powerful that people stop taking meaningful risks. The desire to avoid failure becomes stronger than the desire to achieve success. Average feels safer. Cultural expectations beyond family and school lies culture. Culture provides another set of expectations. What success should look like. What careers are respected. What goals are realistic. What behavior is acceptable. These expectations influence thinking more than most people realize. Many people spend years pursuing goals they never consciously chose. They inherited them, absorbed them, accepted them, without questioning whether those goals actually align with their values. The approval trap. Human beings naturally seek approval. This is normal. Approval creates connection, belonging, acceptance. The challenge occurs when approval becomes the primary decision-making system. The person begins asking, "What will people think?" instead of, "What do I truly want?" They choose safety over authenticity, popularity over purpose, acceptance over growth. The result is a life that appears successful externally but feels empty internally. Because it was built around expectations rather than intention. The normality illusion. One of the strongest forces in human psychology is the desire to be normal. People often define normal based on their environment. If everyone around them struggles financially, financial struggle feels normal. If nobody around them starts businesses, entrepreneurship feels unusual. If ambition is rare, ambition feels risky. The environment becomes the standard. The problem is that normal is relative. What appears extraordinary in one environment may be ordinary in another. Your perception of possibility is heavily influenced by what you regularly observe. Why most people never question their beliefs. Imagine wearing tinted glasses from birth. You would eventually stop noticing them. The color would feel normal. Reality would appear obvious. Beliefs operate similarly. People rarely question deeply held assumptions. Not because the beliefs are true. Because the beliefs feel familiar. And familiarity often feels like truth. Many limiting beliefs survive simply because they are never examined. The person assumes. That's just how life works. Without asking, is it really? The stories society repeats. Society constantly tells stories. Stories about success, money, relationships, intelligence, age, opportunity. Some stories are useful, others are limiting. Examples include, success is only for the lucky. Rich people are different. You have to settle eventually. Most dreams don't work out. Ordinary people can't do extraordinary things. Repeated often enough, these ideas begin shaping behavior. People lower expectations, reduce ambition, accept limitations, and call it realism. The cost of inherited beliefs. Many adults spend decades living according to beliefs they never consciously chose. Beliefs inherited from parents, teachers, friends, culture, media, society. Some of these beliefs serve them well. Others quietly restrict growth. The tragedy is not having limiting beliefs. The tragedy is never questioning them. Because unexamined beliefs often become invisible prisons. The walls exist, but the person cannot see them. Breaking the pattern. Freedom begins with awareness. The moment you start examining your beliefs, something powerful happens. You create distance. Distance creates perspective. Perspective creates choice. You begin asking, do I actually believe this? Where did this idea come from? Is this helping me grow? Would I choose this belief today? These questions weaken conditioning. And weakened conditioning creates opportunity. Designing your own mind. One of the most empowering realizations in life is that beliefs are not fixed. They can evolve, expand, adapt, change. The person you become depends partly on the beliefs you choose to reinforce. You are not obligated to keep every idea you inherited. You can update them, challenge them, replace them. This process requires courage, but it creates freedom. The extraordinary difference. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not necessarily more intelligent, more talented, or more fortunate. Often they simply questioned assumptions that others accepted. They challenged limitations, ignored expectations, expanded possibilities. They refused to let inherited beliefs define their future. That decision changed everything. The next level. By now, you understand how fear shapes behavior, how comfort creates stagnation, how easy rewards weaken discipline, how social conditioning limits possibility. But a critical question remains. If the brain naturally prefers average, Why do some people consistently achieve extraordinary results? What allows them to think differently? Act differently? Persist when others quit? The answer is not found in genetics alone, nor talent alone, nor luck alone. It is found in mindset. Because the people who escape average often see reality through a completely different lens. And understanding that lens could transform your life. Chapter 8. Why successful people think differently. Look at any field of human achievement. Business, sports, science, art, writing, leadership, innovation. You will find people who produce results far beyond the average. At first glance, it appears they possess something special. More talent, more intelligence, more confidence, more luck. And sometimes they do. But if you study high achievers closely, you discover something surprising. Their greatest advantage is often not talent. It is the way they think. Because long before success appears in the outside world, it begins inside the mind. Success is often the result of a different psychological operating system, a different way of interpreting reality, a different relationship with fear, failure, uncertainty, and growth. The average mind versus the growth mind. Most people see the world through a lens of limitation. They focus on obstacles, challenges, difficulties, reasons something may not work. High achievers see obstacles too, but they interpret them differently. The average mind asks, why can't this be done? The growth mind asks, how can this be done? The average mind searches for reasons. The growth mind searches for solutions. This distinction seems small. It is not. Over years, it creates dramatically different outcomes. They expect problems. Many people become discouraged when problems appear. They interpret problems as signs they are on the wrong path. Successful people think differently. They expect problems. They assume obstacles will occur. They assume mistakes will happen. They assume setbacks are inevitable. As a result, problems do not shock them. They adapt, adjust, continue. The average person sees difficulty and stops. The successful person sees difficulty and keeps moving. They understand delayed rewards. One of the defining characteristics of successful individuals is their willingness to wait. Not passively, actively. They understand that meaningful results take time. Skills require repetition. Businesses require patience. Relationships require investment. Expertise requires practice. The average mind seeks immediate evidence. The growth mind trusts the process longer. This difference creates enormous advantages. Because most people quit before the rewards arrive, they focus on inputs. Average thinkers often obsess over outcomes. Money, recognition, results, status. Successful thinkers focus on inputs, habits, systems, behaviors, daily actions. They understand a simple truth. You control inputs more than outcomes. You cannot fully control whether a business succeeds. You can control the effort invested. You cannot guarantee recognition. You can guarantee consistent work. The focus shifts from results to process. And process creates results. They redefine failure. Most people fear failure because they define it incorrectly. They view failure as an identity, evidence of inadequacy, proof of limitation. Successful people see failure differently. They see information, feedback, data, education. A failed attempt becomes a lesson. A setback becomes a teacher. An obstacle becomes a source of knowledge. This perspective transforms behavior. Because the person stops fearing mistakes and starts learning from them. They take responsibility. One of the strongest characteristics of high achievers is personal responsibility. Not blame. Responsibility. They focus on what they can influence. Their effort. Their decisions. Their habits. Their mindset. The average mind often focuses on external factors. Circumstances. Luck. Other people. Economic conditions. Successful individuals acknowledge external realities, but they spend most of their energy improving what they control. This mindset creates power. Because influence grows where attention goes. They think long-term. The average brain is heavily influenced by immediate circumstances. A bad day feels permanent. A setback feels devastating. A delay feels unbearable. High achievers think differently. They zoom out. They think in years, decades, long-term trajectories. They understand that temporary discomfort does not determine final outcomes. This perspective reduces emotional volatility. And emotional stability improves decision-making. They embrace discomfort. Most people avoid discomfort. Successful people develop a different relationship with it. They recognize discomfort as part of growth. A difficult workout. A challenging conversation. A demanding project. A new skill. These experiences are uncomfortable, but discomfort often signals development. The brain says, avoid this. Growth says, this is where progress happens. The ability to tolerate discomfort becomes a competitive advantage. They protect their attention. Attention is one of the most valuable resources in existence. Successful individuals understand this. They are selective about what consumes their focus. What they read. What they watch. Who they spend time with. What conversations they engage in. The average person often allows attention to be directed externally. Notifications. Entertainment. Distractions. The successful person directs attention intentionally. And intentional attention creates intentional results. They think in probabilities. Many people make decisions based on certainty. If success is not guaranteed, they hesitate. Successful people think differently. They think in probabilities. No opportunity is guaranteed. No outcome is certain. The question becomes, what is the likely reward compared to the risk? This mindset encourages action. Because waiting for certainty becomes unnecessary. Life becomes a series of intelligent bets rather than perfect predictions. They build confidence through action. Average thinkers often wait for confidence. Successful thinkers create confidence. How? Through action. Repeated action. Small wins. Consistent effort. Experience. Confidence is not something they receive. It is something they build. Each action provides evidence. Each experience strengthens belief. Eventually, confidence becomes a byproduct of competence, not positive thinking. They surround themselves with growth. Environment influences behavior. Successful people recognize this. They intentionally expose themselves to ideas, individuals, and communities that encourage growth. They seek mentors, books, challenges, learning opportunities. The average environment often reinforces average expectations. Growth-oriented environments reinforce possibility. This difference compounds over time. They accept that fear never leaves. One of the most important lessons successful people learn is that fear does not disappear. New goals create new fears. Larger opportunities create larger uncertainties. Greater visibility creates greater vulnerability. Fear remains. The difference is that successful people stop waiting for fear to leave. They act anyway. Fear becomes a passenger, not the driver. The hidden secret. People often search for the secret behind extraordinary achievement. The secret is not secret at all. Extraordinary people think differently because they have trained themselves to think differently. They have challenged assumptions, rewritten beliefs, expanded perspectives, practiced new mental habits. The brain is adaptable, which means your thinking can evolve. The mindset that created your current life is not necessarily the mindset that must create your future. Becoming your own evidence. One of the biggest breakthroughs occurs when you stop looking for proof in other people and start creating proof yourself. Every challenge completed becomes evidence. Every fear faced becomes evidence. Every promise kept becomes evidence. The brain begins updating its model of reality. A new identity emerges. A stronger identity. An identity capable of achieving more than the old one ever imagined. The final transformation. By now, you understand why the brain prefers average. You understand fear, comfort, conditioning, easy rewards, conformity. But understanding alone is not enough. Knowledge creates awareness. Action creates transformation. The question is no longer, why does my brain keep me average? The question becomes, how do I retrain it? Because the human brain is not fixed. It can change, adapt, rewire itself, develop new patterns, build new habits, create new possibilities. And that is exactly what we explore next. Chapter 9. Reprogramming the Average Mind. Throughout this book, you have learned a difficult truth. Your brain is not naturally designed to make you extraordinary. It prefers certainty over uncertainty, comfort over challenge, belonging over standing out, immediate rewards over delayed gratification, familiarity over growth, average over exceptional. At first, this realization may seem discouraging, but it is actually empowering. Because once you understand the system, you can begin changing it. You are not trapped by your biology. You are influenced by it. And influence is not destiny. The human brain possesses one remarkable ability that separates it from almost every machine ever created. It can reprogram itself. Scientists call this neuroplasticity. In simple terms, it means the brain changes based on repeated experience. What you repeatedly think becomes easier to think. What you repeatedly do becomes easier to do. What you repeatedly believe becomes easier to believe. This means your current mindset is not permanent. It is trainable. The first rule: stop trusting every thought. Many people assume that because they think something, it must be true. This is one of the biggest mistakes in personal development. The brain produces thousands of thoughts every day. Some are useful. Some are irrational. Some are outdated. Some are completely inaccurate. Yet people often treat thoughts as facts. A thought appears. I'm not good enough. And the person believes it. A thought appears. This probably won't work. And the person stops. A thought appears. Someone else could do it better. And the person retreats. Successful people develop a different relationship with their thoughts. They examine them, question them, challenge them. They understand an important principle: thoughts are suggestions, not commands. Identity is the real battlefield. Most people try to change behavior. Few try to change identity. This is why change often fails. Consider someone who says, "I'm trying to exercise." Notice the language. They still identify as someone who does not exercise. They are attempting a temporary behavior. Compare that to, "I am someone who takes care of my health." The identity has changed. Behavior becomes easier when it aligns with identity. Your brain constantly seeks consistency. When actions match identity, resistance decreases. When actions conflict with identity, resistance increases. This means lasting change often begins with a new self-image. Small wins rewire the brain. Many people attempt transformation through massive changes. Extreme diets, aggressive schedules, huge goals, radical commitments. The excitement feels powerful. The results rarely last. Why? Because the brain dislikes dramatic change. Small wins are more effective. A single workout, 1 page written, 10 minutes of learning, a short daily habit. These actions seem insignificant, yet they create evidence. Evidence becomes belief. Belief strengthens identity. Identity drives behavior. Small wins create momentum, and momentum creates transformation. The power of repetition. The brain learns through repetition, not intensity. Repetition. Think about learning a language, playing an instrument, driving a car. At first, the activity feels difficult, awkward, unnatural. Then repetition occurs. Neural pathways strengthen. The behavior becomes automatic. Confidence emerges. The same principle applies to courage, discipline, focus, resilience. Consistency matters more than perfection. Small actions repeated daily often outperform occasional bursts of motivation. Building a new comfort zone. Many people assume the goal is eliminating discomfort. The real goal is expanding comfort. Every challenge completed broadens your comfort zone. Every fear faced reduces uncertainty. Every new skill acquired increases confidence. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes normal. Public speaking, leadership, creating content, starting a business, networking, selling. These activities feel uncomfortable only until experience transforms them into familiarity. Growth occurs when today's discomfort becomes tomorrow's normal. Training attention. Modern life constantly competes for your focus. Notifications, messages, entertainment, advertisements, algorithms. The result is fragmented attention. And fragmented attention creates fragmented progress. One of the most valuable skills you can develop is concentration. The ability to focus deeply on one thing at a time. This skill is becoming increasingly rare, which makes it increasingly valuable. Every time you resist distraction, you strengthen attention. Every time you choose focus, you strengthen discipline. The brain adapts to whatever you repeatedly practice. Replacing consumption with creation. Most people consume far more than they create. They watch, read, scroll, observe, analyze, discuss, but rarely build, create, produce, contribute. Consumption feels productive because information is entering the mind. Creation is where growth accelerates. Writing, building, designing, teaching, producing. Creating forces the brain to develop new capabilities. The shift from consumer to creator changes everything. Because creators actively shape reality, consumers mostly react to it. The environment strategy. Willpower is useful. Environment is powerful. Many people rely entirely on self-control. This approach often fails. The brain naturally follows the path of least resistance. Smart individuals use this tendency strategically. They design environments that support desired behaviors. Healthy food becomes accessible. Distractions become harder to reach. Books remain visible. Tools remain available. Desired actions become easier. Undesired actions become harder. The environment begins working with the brain rather than against it. Learning to fail faster. One reason people remain average is that they avoid failure. This sounds logical. But avoiding failure often means avoiding growth. Every successful person accumulates failures, mistakes, setbacks, rejections, experiments that did not work. The difference is volume. Average individuals avoid failure. Successful individuals learn from failure. The goal is not seeking failure. The goal is reducing fear of failure. Because when failure loses its power, opportunity gains influence. The daily vote. Every action is a vote. A vote for the person you are becoming. Every workout casts a vote for health. Every study session casts a vote for knowledge. Every act of courage casts a vote for confidence. Every act of discipline casts a vote for self-respect. No single vote determines the outcome. But thousands of votes create identity. This perspective changes everything. You no longer need to become extraordinary overnight. You simply need to keep voting. The compound effect of growth. Most people underestimate compounding. Not just financially. Psychologically. A small improvement repeated daily becomes significant. A slight increase in discipline compounds. A slight increase in focus compounds. A slight increase in confidence compounds. The results may seem invisible initially. Then something remarkable happens. The effects become visible. The person appears transformed. Others call it talent, luck, natural ability. They rarely see the years of compounding beneath the surface. The new operating system. Reprogramming the mind is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming more intentional. Replacing automatic patterns with conscious choices. Replacing fear-driven reactions with growth-oriented responses. Replacing old conditioning with updated beliefs. This process takes time. But it works. Because the brain is adaptive. The same adaptability that created old patterns can create new ones. The final step. By now, you understand the mechanisms that keep people average. You understand how to challenge them. You understand how to build new patterns. But one final question remains. What happens when someone fully commits to this process? What happens when they stop obeying fear? Stop worshiping comfort. Stop accepting average. What does life look like when a person becomes the exception rather than the rule? That is the final chapter of this journey. Chapter 10. Becoming the exception. Most people never realize what they are truly capable of. Not because they lack talent. Not because they lack intelligence. Not because they lack opportunity. But because they spend their lives negotiating with a brain that constantly encourages safety. The average life rarely happens by accident. It happens through thousands of small decisions. Small moments of hesitation. Small acts of avoidance. Small compromises. Small retreats into comfort. Over time, these choices accumulate. Years pass. Potential remains unexplored. Dreams remain unfinished. Possibilities remain unrealized. The person becomes older, but not necessarily wiser. Busier, but not necessarily fulfilled. And eventually a painful question appears. What would have happened if I had truly committed? This chapter is about ensuring you never have to ask that question. The difference between the majority and the minority: most people follow their feelings. The minority follow their values. This distinction appears simple. It is life-changing. Feelings are temporary. They fluctuate. They change with mood, weather, circumstances, energy levels. Values are different. Values provide direction even when emotions become unstable. The average person says, "I don't feel like it today." The exceptional person says, "I still believe it matters," and then acts accordingly. This ability creates extraordinary results over time. The myth of motivation. Many people spend years searching for motivation, waiting for inspiration, waiting for excitement, waiting for the perfect emotional state. The problem is that motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It appears unexpectedly, and disappears just as quickly. Successful people learn something important. Discipline outperforms motivation. Systems outperform inspiration. Habits outperform emotions. The person who only acts when motivated will always struggle with consistency. The person who acts regardless of mood becomes unstoppable. Excellence is not an event. Many people imagine transformation as a dramatic moment, a breakthrough, a sudden realization, a life-changing event. Those moments exist. But lasting success is usually less dramatic. It is built quietly. One day at a time. One habit at a time. One decision at a time. Excellence is not an event. It is a pattern. A pattern repeated so consistently that it eventually becomes identity. The courage to be uncomfortable. At this point, you understand something many people never learn. Comfort is not always your friend. In fact, comfort often becomes the greatest obstacle to growth. Every meaningful achievement requires periods of discomfort. Learning, practicing, failing, improving, persisting. The exceptional individual develops a unique relationship with discomfort. They stop interpreting it as a warning sign. Instead, they begin seeing it as evidence of expansion. Evidence that growth is occurring. Evidence that progress is being made. Why most people quit? Most people do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they stop. The business was abandoned too early. The skill was abandoned too early. The goal was abandoned too early. The dream was abandoned too early. The effort was abandoned before compounding had time to work. This is one of life's most important lessons. Results often arrive later than expected. Persistence bridges the gap. The power of long-term thinking. Exceptional people think differently about time. Most individuals focus on immediate outcomes. Today's discomfort. Today's results. Today's obstacles. The exceptional person asks a different question. Who am I becoming? This perspective changes behavior. A difficult workout is no longer just a workout. It becomes an investment in future strength. A study session becomes an investment in future expertise. A courageous action becomes an investment in future confidence. Long-term thinking transforms ordinary decisions into meaningful steps. The responsibility advantage. One of the greatest advantages you can develop is personal responsibility. Not because life is fair. It isn't. Not because circumstances do not matter. They do. But because responsibility creates power. The moment you focus on what you can influence, growth becomes possible. Energy stops flowing toward excuses. It starts flowing toward solutions. The exceptional person asks, "What can I do?" Again and again. This question changes lives. Becoming harder to defeat. Life will never stop presenting challenges. Unexpected setbacks. Disappointments. Failures. Losses. Criticism. Difficult seasons. These experiences are unavoidable. The goal is not creating a life without difficulty. The goal is becoming someone who can handle difficulty. Someone resilient. Adaptable. Persistent. Strong. The world becomes less intimidating when you trust your ability to navigate challenges. The extraordinary secret. People often search for extraordinary secrets. Complex strategies. Hidden formulas. Exclusive knowledge. The truth is surprisingly simple. Extraordinary lives are usually built on ordinary principles practiced consistently. Showing up. Keeping promises. Learning continuously. Facing fears. Taking responsibility. Maintaining discipline. Remaining patient. The principles are not hidden. The challenge is applying them long enough for results to emerge. The future version of you. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. Two versions. The first version followed comfort. Avoided risk. Protected certainty. Stayed average. The second version embraced growth. Faced fear. Accepted uncertainty. Developed discipline. Pursued possibility. Which future feels more alive? More meaningful? More fulfilling? Every day, your actions cast votes for one of these futures. Whether you realize it or not. The future is being created right now. The ultimate freedom. Many people believe freedom comes from money, status, success, recognition. These things can create opportunities. But the deepest form of freedom is internal. Freedom from limiting beliefs. Freedom from unnecessary fear. Freedom from destructive habits. Freedom from automatic patterns. Freedom from the need for constant approval. This freedom allows you to act intentionally rather than react automatically. And intentional living is one of the greatest forms of success. The final realization. The title of this book is, Why Your Brain is Designed to Keep You Average. By now, you understand that statement. Your brain prefers certainty, comfort, safety, belonging, immediate rewards, familiar patterns. None of these preferences are inherently bad. They helped human beings survive. But survival and fulfillment are not the same thing. Survival keeps you alive. Growth helps you truly live. The challenge is not defeating your brain. The challenge is leading it. Understanding its instincts, respecting its warnings, but refusing to surrender your future to them. The decision that changes everything. Every meaningful transformation begins with a decision. A decision to stop waiting. A decision to stop settling. A decision to stop allowing fear to dictate direction. A decision to become intentional. No book can make that decision for you. No mentor can make it. No opportunity can make it. Only you can. And once that decision is made, something powerful happens. The brain stops being your master. It becomes your tool. A final message. You will never eliminate fear completely. You will never remove uncertainty entirely. You will never reach a point where growth becomes effortless. That is not the goal. The goal is moving forward anyway. The goal is becoming stronger than your excuses. The goal is becoming wiser than your fears. The goal is becoming more committed to your future than to your comfort. Because the people who change their lives are not the people who feel ready. They are the people who begin. Again. And again. And again. Until the impossible becomes possible. Until the unfamiliar becomes familiar. Until the extraordinary becomes normal. And one day, they look back and realize something remarkable. The brain was designed to keep them average. But they chose not to stay there.